During World War II, warmth wasn't a luxury. It was survival. Soldiers, resistance fighters, and civilians living in remote cabins or temporary shelters had to heat small spaces efficiently using limited fuel and basic materials. What makes this period fascinating is that many of their heating solutions were incredibly effective, yet modern construction has largely abandoned them in favour of energy-heavy systems. If you're a history enthusiast or someone interested in practical preparedness, the heating methods developed during World War II reveal how intelligent design can outperform modern convenience. These weren't experimental theories. They were techniques shaped by freezing winters, scarce firewood, and the constant need to stay hidden while staying alive. Why low and central heat sources warmed cabins better than modern placement? One of the most overlooked World War II heating strategies was stove placement. Many wartime cabins used a centrally positioned, low-profile stove rather than placing heat against an exterior wall. The reasoning was simple. Heat radiates outward evenly when it starts near the middle, allowing walls and furniture to absorb warmth slowly and release it back into the space. Builders learned that placing a stove too close to a wall allowed heat to escape outdoors before warming the interior. If you were adapting this today, the practical step would be to position a wood stove closer to the cabin's centre and use heat-resistant backing panels to direct warmth inward. Even in modern homes, shifting heat sources away from exterior walls can noticeably improve efficiency without burning more fuel. How double-layered walls created natural insulation without modern materials. During the war, insulation materials like fiberglass were scarce. Cabin builders improvised by creating double-layered walls with an air gap between planks. This trapped still air, which acted as a thermal barrier. Some cabins even filled the gap with sawdust or packed moss, materials that slowed heat transfer remarkably well. The result was a structure that stayed warm longer after the fire died down. Applying this idea today doesn't require rebuilding a house. Adding interior panelling or even heavy wooden shelving along outer walls creates a similar insulating effect. The World War II lesson here is that insulation isn't just about expensive materials. It's about creating layers that trap air and prevent rapid temperature loss. Why smaller heated zones saved more fuel than heating entire rooms. Wartime cabins often use fabric partitions or wooden screens to shrink the heated area during cold nights. Instead of warming an entire structure, families concentrated heat into one sleeping or cooking zone. This reduced fuel consumption dramatically and made small stoves far more effective. Modern builders rarely consider this because central heating systems aim to warm everything equally. Yet the old method still works. If you live in a large space, closing off unused areas with curtains or temporary partitions allows heat to build where you actually spend time. It's a simple adjustment that reflects how World War II survival depended on managing space, not just generating heat. So, here's how thermal mass turned simple objects into long-lasting heat sources. Another, often forgotten trick involved using heavy materials to store warmth. Folks would place stones, bricks, and even water containers near stoves to absorb heat during the day. At night, these objects would slowly release that warmth, which meant you didn't have to keep fires burning all the time. This method was especially common in Eastern European cabins, where, honestly, fuel shortages were really severe. If you want to apply this today, placing fire-safe bricks or maybe a cast-iron surface near your heat source can help stabilize indoor temperatures. The key is allowing materials with mass to soak up heat gradually, rather than just letting it dissipate into the air right away. Why did airflow management matter more than just burning more wood? Well, many people assume that staying warm during the Second World War meant constant firewood, but actually experienced cabin dwellers focused more on controlling drafts. They sealed gaps with cloth, mud, or paper, and used simple venting techniques to direct warm air downward, instead of letting it rise and escape. Some cabins even used low ceiling beams or hanging fabric to keep heat from collecting uselessly at the roofline. In practical terms, you can test this idea by identifying drafts around doors or windows and sealing them up with weather stripping or heavy curtains. Honestly, redirecting airflow often improves warmth more than just adding extra fuel to the fire. Now, let's talk about how hidden chimney designs manage to preserve heat while staying, well, discreet. In regions under occupation, any visible smoke could attract some very unwanted attention. So, builders got clever. They created angled or extended chimneys that cooled the smoke before it exited, which reduced visibility but also allowed precious heat to linger inside a bit longer. And you know, even though modern homes don't need to hide their smoke for survival, the idea of extending the heat's journey before it escapes is still relevant today. Longer stovepipes running inside a cabin actually radiate more warmth before venting outdoors. By installing safe, properly insulated stovepipe runs, you can boost heating efficiency without having to change the stove itself. So, why did these heating secrets fade away, even though they worked so well? Well, after the war, cheap energy and new building standards shifted everyone's focus toward convenience rather than pure efficiency. Central heating systems ended up replacing all that localized heating know-how, and a lot of those wartime lessons were simply dismissed as old-fashioned. But now, with rising energy costs and a growing interest in off-grid living, these ideas are coming back into the conversation. The reason they worked back then is the same reason they work now. They rely on physics, not fancy technology. Understanding these forgotten World War II cabin heating methods isn't really about nostalgia. It's about realizing that smart design, careful airflow control, and efficient heat placement can make a small space warmer while using much less fuel. These principles help people get through some of the harshest winters in history, and they're still valuable for anyone interested in self-reliance or historical craftsmanship. So, if you appreciate deep history and practical knowledge that still holds up today, go ahead and subscribe to 0 Hour Survival and share this video with your fellow history enthusiasts. The past, honestly, holds more solutions than most people realize, and learning from it keeps those hard-earned lessons alive.